Welcome to the Doctor's Corner with Dr. Kline and Jonelle Elgaway.
Good evening and welcome to the Doctor's Corner on Caw 360 Network with co-host Dr. Kline and I'm Jonelle Elgaway. Joining us tonight is special guest Dr. Linda Cheek. There are two ways to listen into tonight's program through our website, www.cawnetion.com, or YouTube channel, The Doctor's Corner. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get reminders of when we are on live. Dr. Kline loves to hear from you and answer all your questions from our mailbag. If you have future mailbag questions, please email them to Jonelle, Jonelle, Elgaway, which is Elgaway, at caw360.com. If anyone would like to call in with a question this evening, you can do so on our new number, which is 415-403-2715. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Kline and Dr. Linda Cheek to the Doctor's Corner. How is everyone this evening?
I'm just dandy. we're both just dandy. How about that?
Good.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, we're a little late tonight. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, of course. But before we start, Dr. Kline, is there anything newsworthy that occurred recently that you would like to share with us?
Not much in the way of except the conviction of Dr. Stephen Henson. We're going to be talking about that later. So other than that, we don't have any news. And do you have any mailbag questions, Jonelle? If not, I've got a couple that came in.
Yes, I do. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Okay. So somebody said they have a statement, not necessarily a question, but I figured you'd have something to say after that. And they said, how would you put it without being disparaging those who were at the rallies? The CPP community needs wording and facts, education when speaking to reporters. Maybe ask them to rehearse or know the answer to reporters who ask, what would you say to people who have died of overdoses? I like to see a form of questions to practice how to answer a reporter when they ask these questions and how to field these questions. Did you have anything to add to something like that?
Well, send us the questions you're being asked,
Okay.
and we will provide you with answers. The first thing about overdoses that's very, very important is to ask who's overdosing. So the answer to that is the CDC is presenting data from opioid addicts or junkies, as they prefer to call themselves. So I don't see that as a pejorative term, but it's clear that junkies are people who die in the streets from heroin overdoses or overdoses of whatever. That's the data the CDC based their conclusions on. Now, if they have conclusions based on a population of addicts dying in the street, then they need to have recommendations on how to stop them from dying in the street, and they haven't done that. They think that you can stop people dying in the street by controlling the amount of opiates that are floating around, as though addicts are sitting around waiting to go to the pharmacy and pick up their prescriptions. They don't go to pharmacies. They get all of their medicines in the street and they take whatever they want. They have no medical care, no medical guidance, and so they do it wrong. And when they do it wrong, they die. So that's the overdoses that we're talking about. Overdoses in the general population, people at doctors' offices, going to pharmacies, are not dying. That's not true. There's only 500 people dying a year who go to doctors, who are getting prescriptions. And of those, many are committing suicide. So no study has shown that there's more than 200 or 300 people dying per year of overdose. Only people who are junkies. Okay. So if you have questions like that, let us know. We need to know what the common questions being asked are, and then we can collect up those questions called news media questions, and then we can put them on my Medium page, and you can look at them. Also on my Medium page is a FAQ page about all things pertaining to addiction. It's It's not too bad, if I may say so myself. I got some help from a teenager next door who seems to be very literate and can put things together in a way that people understand that I have difficulty with. But just Google medium FAQ Kline, and that'll get you right to my Medium site. Or you can go to thomasklinemd.com and get to it. It's easier just to Google medium FAQ Kline, and you'll get the answers to a lot of questions that people have. But very good point. So, Jonelle, do you have another mailbag? And just cut me off if I go on too long.
Okay. Can doctors prescribe placebos without us knowing, or can they have they given us a form to sign quickly at some point and to be able to do so, or is there a written code word on the prescription telling the pharmacist to do so? If so, is it TID or placebo spelled backwards?
That's a very good question. I don't have a good answer for it, because if you tell the patient that they are going to get a placebo, then it ruins it. On the other hand, you're kind of sneaky. Well, I'll tell you what I did, if you want to know the truth, here at the Confession Hour of Dr. Kline. Mm-hmm. The way I did placebos is I prescribed the drug in an extremely low dose, figuring it's not going to work. And if it works at a low dose, it's a regular pill, so what the heck? We just go with it. So whether it's placebo or not, I'm getting away with treating somebody with an ultra-low dose of medicine.
Okay. How big or small do needles need to be or not to be in order to get arachniditis?
It doesn't really have to do with the size of the needle. It has to do whether they inject the steroid in the wrong place. And that's pretty much up to the operator. So it can be done with a small or a large needle. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Last question. I saw my PM doctor today. He said he can't give more than 2 Norco pills a day. This is ridiculous because they only last 4 hours. So I said it's not a law. It's guidelines. And there's no actual law, especially for chronic pain patients. He said the DEA is telling the doctors this, and it's much worse in Michigan. Is this all a lie? Should I switch doctors? He gave me a new RX for long-acting prescription with only 2 Norco for breakthrough pain.
I've heard this rumor about the DEA. Linda, have you heard anything about this? DEA going around telling people what doses to use, or just some rumor?
I think that's just a rumor.
Okay. We're going to count it as a rumor. I don't think the DEA would really do that. I think physicians are looking for excuses because they are so afraid of them, of what may happen to them with the DEA, that they do not know how they're going to proceed. They don't know whether what they're doing is going to trigger the DEA raids. This is a form of terrorism. Mm-hmm. Terrorism is inducing fear in people of the unknown. You see, that's how the terrorists work. You don't know what's going to blow up next. You don't know if it's going to be an airplane or a building or a subway. That's how terrorism works. And you know what? It's really working well. So, any other questions, Jonelle, in the mailbag?
Nope, that's it. I think we're ready to go into our main topic this evening. I just wanted to remind everybody again, we did have a new number, so if anybody wants to call in with questions, our new number is 415-403-2715. Okay, and we're ready.
Dr. Cheek is a physician, and she has become kind of a crusader and coordinator for doctors who are under the gun from the government. One of the problems when the federal police come after you is the majority of people think they are right. You know, I mean, how could they possibly be raiding a doctor unless they didn't have sufficient evidence? You know, good grief. Doctors abandon other doctors when they're raided. And what kind of raid is it? There's a couple raids they do. One is to obtain medical records. The Medicare administration, if they want records from me, and they did once, they just send me a letter and say, could we please have copies of this chart, this chart, and this chart? And you send them off, and they look at them, and they send you back a letter. In my case, of course, they said I was wonderful. But the DEA can do this too. But instead, to get on TV, and they like to come in with their jackets with DEA on the back, And they may be raiding and hauling away doctors' records. Then they take the records and they can't read them themselves, so they hire a doctor at $300 an hour to read the records. Well, this kind of terrorism, it's just really hard to sit there every day and write prescriptions for people when everybody believes that too much is going to addict people. The sad thing is, nobody has shown that addiction is actually increasing. The only thing increasing are the number of addicts dying on the streets. And they've been increasing every single year since 1970. The increases that we've had that have been labeled as epidemic and crisis are no different than the increases we've had since 1970. So the big issue is, okay, my doctor's been raided. I did a little Twitter poll last year, and 40% of the people who responded, and the people who respond are from a population of pain patients, said 40% said they had lost their doctor who either quit or was raided. And maybe Linda has some statistics on this. I mean, are more doctors being raided than before? Linda, do you have a feeling for that?
I have a feeling. I don't have exact numbers, but there are so many doctors now being attacked that I try to write posts about doctors that are being attacked, and I can't keep up with them. I mean, they're now like attacking the group that just got attacked in California, Hawaii, and Nevada. I mean, they're attacking like 50 doctors at a time across multiple states. So there's no way I can keep up with it anymore.
Wow. Jeff Sessions appointed, 12 or 13 special prosecutors. They're assistant DAs, they're called, federal DAs, with the job of rounding up doctors.
Exactly.
So you've got a career going in the government, right, as you're an attorney. You want to rise up the ranks. The boss says, go find doctors. What are you going to do? You're going to call the boss back and say, well, they were all okay. There's no crooks. So what's happening, sadly, is that the government is trying to protect the population from something they believe is extremely horrible. And they believed it was extremely horrible back in the 1920s when they started raiding doctors and locking them up for prescribing medicines to addicts. In the 1930s, Henry Anslinger said he was going to make every doctor cringe in the country, and he arrested a couple of people for no reason to protect the public. The basic problem is that the police department has the wrong medical information. They are operating on the premise that if you prescribe too much, you're going to create addicts, and we don't want to create addicts. I mean, that seems like a fairly wonderful public goal. Who wants to create addicts? There's only one problem. With opiate addiction, you cannot create more addicts. It's a genetic disease. It's controlled by the genes, and if you don't have the genes, you're not going to become addicted. Now, that's not true for the other types of addictions. If you spread a lot of cocaine and a lot of methamphetamine around, you're going to get more buyers and you're going to get more addicts. Now, my definition of addict for everybody, for all groups, is involvement with a substance that ruins your life. Pretty simple. But if you have an opiate addiction, you have intense seeking without regard for consequence. That's different. People who are addicted to cocaine or shooting cocaine 40 times a day, as an author once did, Maya Salowitz told her story in her book, Unbroken Brain. You see, supply in that case may have affected her because you can just stop. In other words, if her supply of cocaine stopped, she'd be okay. So the idea of controlling the substance is okay, but it's not okay for junkies and real addicts. And I said, I'm using that term because addict friends of mine use it too. So we're on the wrong drug. we can use the same techniques that we have, rating doctors if they're prescribing Adderall. Cocaine is pretty much just on the market, so it would be Adderall. That would be fine, but it's the wrong approach for opiate addiction, type 2 opiate addiction, because no matter how much you spread around, no matter